Hey guys, welcome back. So we're jumping back into Avengers Forever, and for this one, it's time to recruit the members for the final pillar that will make the Omni Avengers complete, which now causes us to need a bunch of Tony Starks. But as it turns out, there's a lot of Tonys who haven't put that bottle down across the multiverse, which may call for a bit of a Starkaholics intervention, maybe? But for the others, we'll get around to the issues that they're dealing with as well. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get your spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so for this one, we begin with Earth 818 Tony Stark, making his way across the multiverse with Earth 616 Robbie Reyes, the All-Righter, as well as the Deathlock. And at this point, the three of them have made incredible progress, putting together the multiversal Avengers team, and as a result, they're heading towards the last stretch of their multiversal quest. And because of this, Tony decides that he wants to celebrate, even though he's having a bit of trouble keeping the liquor down during the turbulent ride. But when they stop for a moment, Tony goes on to say that the Masters of Evil have struck again, and they've stolen all the booze in this universe, except for this one last swig in this bottle. So he then shrinks down as a solution. But then Deathlock comes over and he tells Tony to stop playing around because they're not done, which then has Tony like, wait, well, what do you mean? We have just assembled the craziest team that you could imagine. We got the Star Panther, the strongest Black Panther who's ever lived. We got One Punch Thor, the God of Fists, the angriest, punchiest Thor out there. We've got the Howling Commandos, their own army of Steve Rogers, as well as an insane Air Force packed with Captain Marvels in the Carol Corps. So for Tony, who's still shrunken down and holding up this huge bottle that he's about to destroy, like the body to bottle ratio is insane. But Tony goes on to tell Deathlock that they've already assembled every pillar that is needed for the Omniversal Avengers, and at this point he's ready to drink to that. But Deathlock lets Tony know that he's wrong, because there is still one pillar left. And right away, Tony knows what and who that pillar is. And that last pillar is Tony Stark. So from here, they make their way across the multiverse, finding different Tony Starks. And as we follow them and see this first one, who for one is just drinking whiskey through the helmet, he don't even bother to lift the face up. Like, it's crazy. But for this Tony Stark, when he sees Earth 818 Tony, along with the All-Righter and the Deathlock, he just goes into panic mode, because he truly believes that these guys have made their way here from across the multiverse to take his liquor. And in spite of them trying to tell this Tony that they've come for his help, this Tony then tells them that they can't help. No one can. The future's been stolen and he couldn't stop it. And with him speaking like this, 818 Tony is seeing a bit of himself in this guy. And aside from the obvious reasons, he picks up on this Tony's anxiety, self-hate, his fear of becoming emotionally invested in others, and he recognizes these traits. But as they're chasing this Tony, this guy just pretty much passes out in the air and he goes plummeting down, crashing into this huge explosion. And right away it has me like, man, they should have done something. They could have saved this guy. They could have. Oh, I mean, it was a canon event. It was a canon event. It had to happen. But as I was saying, with this Tony's untimely demise, this caused 818 Tony to look at this and think like he never knew that there was another Tony Stark out there that was even more messed up than he is. So they stick around a bit and give the guy a proper burial. But not after long, Robbie Reyes is like, look, we're wasting time. The Omni-Avengers need a Tony Stark to hold them together. But for 818 Tony, he doesn't want to go through this, because for him, it's like looking in the mirror over and over and over again. And as for the Deathlock, he agrees with Robbie, because amongst these different Tony Starks, there's got to be an ultimate Tony who can bring the others together. So for a moment, the Deathlock is like, well, if you're that Tony, then we're good. But then 818 Tony just pulls out his flask and takes a swig, which is kind of his passive way of saying like, nope, I'm not that guy. So from here, the three of them continue their search across the multiverse for the other Iron Men and the ultimate Iron Man. And on the next world that they travel to, they find a Tony Stark who was burnt at the stake because the people of his world believed that he was a witch, and only a few really understood that he truly was a brilliant mind who would make things out of other people's trash, and that he was someone who showed the potential of being a hero who would save the world one day. And I mean, now with seeing this, 818 Tony's getting the vibe of like, man, if this guy wasn't the one, then who is? And then next, they go to a universe where this Tony Stark transferred his mind into a robot body, the size of a celestial. And it was said in this universe that this new robot form that he had taken had been so big that it could no longer fit on his home planet. And at that point, it's kind of like, man, why? But with coming here, they fill him in and they tell him that they want him to join up and help save the multiverse. But at this point, this Tony is so far beyond his Earth, and to the point where now he's just drinking other planets, which is probably the reason why he did this in the first place. But anyway, he tells 818 Tony and the others that he's not interested. And 818 Tony puts it together as they leave that the reason why this celestial-sized Tony made himself this way is because he figured the others would look like molehills once he's standing in the clouds. Because again, 818 Tony, he sees himself in these different variants, so it's painful for him seeing over and over again the things about himself that he hates the most. And as they arrive on the next world, we're told that they've seen at least 30 Tonys who've used their suits as bartenders, another 24 who flew into the sun, and somewhere around another 50 who are in a catatonic state. But as they make their way here, they find that this Tony has never left the cave where he created his first suit, because he keeps scrapping the suit and starting all over again. Because for the past 10+ years, he's been an over-perfectionist. And even when they get here and try to talk to him, he's just like, no, I can't talk, I'm too busy, I gotta finish this suit so I can get out this cave. But as 818 Tony and the others look around, they realize that this Tony's captors have been dead for at least 10 years. And this Tony has never tried to use any of these suits to make his escape, and he's been so trapped in a state of fear and perfection that he's never even looked up to realize at this point he could just walk out of there. And after seeing this guy, 818 Tony tells Robbie and the Deathlock that this Tony may be onto something, like it might have been better had all the Tonys just stayed in their cave. And he lets them know after they visit the next Earth, he's gonna come back here in this cave and he's not leaving either. And when they go to this next Earth, they end up making their way to Stark Repair, where inside, 818 Tony finds himself speaking to a much older Tony Stark, who had spent his life running a repair shop where he was very content with helping people just by fixing things that were broken. But at this point, for this older Tony, his heart's been giving him problems, and he doesn't know how much longer he's gonna last. And there comes a moment here while they're talking, where 818 Tony just offers this guy one last drink, but this older Tony just turns it down. And he goes on to say that he doesn't drink because it takes a clear head to fix things. And his secret all these years running this shop is when it comes to fixing things, it takes one to know one. Which right there lets 818 Tony know that this older Tony knows him. And the older Tony goes on to say that he likes to believe that he knows why 818 Tony is here, which is because more people are going to make their way to this place who are all going to need something that is broken to be fixed. And older Tony was hoping that he would come, so he'd have someone to pass it on to. So he tells 818 Tony that all of this is his, if he just promises to always, but suddenly, just like that, the older Tony passes. And even though he didn't finish his sentence, the conversation in itself caused 818 Tony to realize what he needs to do moving forward. So after pouring out some liquor for the dead homie, he makes his way back to the Hell Charger with all the booze that he had tucked away. Which, come to think of it, it's pretty crazy how much alcohol an Ant-Man can hide, given the specific motivation. But it's here where he makes use of the Hell Charger's trunk, which as a reminder, inside it has a portal to hell. So Tony throws all the liquor in the trunk, and he detoxes for the next couple days, to where then eventually he makes his way back to the Tony who never left the cave. And he helps him make those steps out of that cave, while letting that Tony know that he's safe, he can come outside, and that he doesn't have to be perfect to take those steps out of the cave, because nobody really is. And then from here, he takes him back to Stark Repair to meet up and talk with other Tonys who are working through their issues. And really, as it turns out, it's almost like an AA meeting for the different Tonys across the multiverse, where all these Starkaholics can come together in a safe space, talk about their issues, and tell their individual stories to one another, which is definitely an AA meeting for Starkaholics. But soon after, we come to find that this method ends up working out, and eventually more and more Tonys end up joining. Because when it comes to fixing things that are broken, it takes one to know one. But now that we finally have all of these Tony Starks together, we now have the final pillar that was needed to bring the Omni Avengers together so that they can all take the fight to the Masters of Evil. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.